Yes, it's very sad, really, because any delays in the diagnosis of cancer means that the results are inevitably poorer. And it's a merger of several things happening. First of all, the diagnostic capacity in the NHS isn't as good as it should be. And that was well before COVID. COVID comes along and really weakens that capacity considerably. And then the other problem we have is that getting to see your GP, which is the first hurdle most people face if they think they've got something serious, you've got to pick up that phone and make that call. And it sometimes just rings and rings. And so access to the NHS is getting increasingly more difficult. So we've got to do something now. I think this just shows how poor it's got.
The question is, what do we do? I mean, this is one of endless stories of underfunding and understaffing of the NHS.
I know the workforce capacity is part of the problem. It's more important than the equipment capacity because, after all, if you have a CT scanner and you've got people, you can run it for longer hours. You can run it through the night, as they do in China. Here, we tend to shut at 5 or 6 o'clock. Now, that could change, and we could keep things going. I think the overall problem is that the 2-week wait was introduced in the year 2000, 22 years ago. I was on the committee that introduced it, and it was a stopgap measure. The idea was no one should wait more than 2 weeks, whatever your problems. I mean, you can't diagnose cancer by talking to people and examining them. You need to do some investigation. So no one should actually have to wait 2 weeks. And in Europe, you don't. But here, it was a stopgap 22 years ago, and we've never got back to the idea that everyone should have an appointment within 2 weeks, and it was a magical figure. 2 weeks just sounds good, but even that target's being missed.
So would recruitment go a long way towards solving this waiting time problem?
I listen to the politicians talk, as we have done recently, a lot, and they talk about getting 50,000 new nurses. Where are they going to come from? There aren't 50,000 nurses in the UK not working. I can assure the Minister of Health of that. You can recruit from abroad, and there have been increasing drives to recruit people from abroad, not just nurses, but doctors, other staff, other skilled technical staff for the health service. The trouble there is there's a limited pot of people. Some of them will come, they'll come for 2 or 3 years, they'll gain from the experience and go back, and that's great. But many will actually come and they're depriving their own country, who's paid for their training, of their skills. And so that's another problem we've got. What we've got to do is really begin at the beginning. Long-term plan. Let's look at healthcare professions, all of them, and see how we can make them more attractive. It's not just about money. It's about organization. It's about flexibility. It's about letting people develop. So a healthcare assistant comes to the health service and can become a brain surgeon if she wants, for example. Why not have pathways like that? All feasible, done in other countries, not done here.
Very quickly, Carol, just for time, look, the kind of referrals we're talking about are really stressful for those individual patients. What advice would you have for someone who's desperately trying to get seen?
I think the most important thing is to persist. That people that persist tend to get through. It's difficult. Don't be rude. Don't get aggressive. Don't start swearing at the poor receptionist. Just try and make that first appointment. And if you don't get anywhere, go again. Phone 111, the answer service, which is really very good. There are many ways into the health service, but people don't persist because they get put off by the GP and the whole business of getting a GP appointment. Just don't be put off, persist.